We crashed again this week. I'm not really sure what's up with Facebook. It always seems to happen about 20 minutes in, so maybe we'll try a different stream type next week. Let's see what happens. Anyway, let's continue where we left off. Not sure why Facebook is having these issues, but last Friday night, the Sunnyvale downtown ice rink opened, and it was great to see so many friends. The San Francisco Ice Theater Group uh, did some performances, and then ultimately they were there to entertain the crowd. There was, Snoopy was out on the ice. At the end of the day, uh, Sunnyvale community service families were able to join in. So to see the kids and some of the parents out on the ice was actually very nice. They also had an anonymous donor that ended up giving gift certificates or gift cards to all the kids that were also able to be there. So it was nice to be there, and there'll all be ultimately there'll be a lot of multiple special events throughout the season. Skating lessons for those who can't skate. There's curling. There'll be robots and ice again. So look forward to that. Friday night, or I think it was actually Saturday morning, the 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 Build Back Better housing bill passed the House, and now it's in the Senate floor. We'll see how quickly that is negotiated through as far as the changes that'll be going on at the Senate level. And then last weekend there were lots of events. Friends of Sunnyvale Library had their November book sale, and Sunnyvale Community Services had their craft fair at Murphy Park. So I attended both of those over the 2 days and several other small events. But it was good because there were especially people buying gifts for themselves and for friends and family. Definitely the Sunnyvale Community Services book sale had lots of holiday decorations and baked goods. It was just good to see them and see people there, as well as all the proceeds ultimately benefited Sunnyvale Community Services. So it's buying for a good cause. And then on Monday, council had a special meeting to discuss and ultimately give direction on declaring Mason Fong's council member seat vacant, and and ultimately deciding how we will replace that position that was vacated by Mason. So it was a good discussion by council. Council ultimately unanimously voted to declare the seat vacant on December 14th, so utilizing the maximum time to bring that back on December 14th to declare that seat vacant, and then ultimately will appoint the replacement for that seat between February 3rd and February 12th. And the timing of that was really important. Ultimately it kind of threads the needle by planning to appoint Mason's replacement after February 2nd, which is ultimately the cutoff for the June election. And then it's within the 60 days as required by the charter. And there were lots of things discussed in 2016 when I ran for the first special election when Dave Whittem resigned, that we just shouldn't follow the charter. And it's like our Constitution from a city standpoint. It's critical that we do what the charter says. And luckily we were able to find a very short period of time that we didn't have to run. If we'd appointed somebody in December or January, ultimately because the way the charter is written, we would have had to run the replacement at an at-large election in the next statewide election. And so ultimately that would have cost the city about $227,000 if we'd run an at-large election in June. And the other option for council was actually run a special election, as we did in 2020 or 2016. But it would have cost the city between 1.9 million and 3.2 million. So ultimately what cost about $800,000 in 2016 is now between $2 and $3 million, because it's not just volunteers running the polling places, it's actually paid people. The county registrar revised their fees to basically pass on uh, all their fees to the cities that are running those elections. So yeah, it would have been a very large change. $800,000 was a lot of money to begin with, but when we ran the special election 5 years ago, but now it's would have even been $2 to $3 million is a lot of money for the city to spend, and even $250,000 to spend for a June election. In especially 2022, when we're looking to move to district elections, it really wouldn't have made a lot of sense. It would have been, we're looking at it would have, and because Mason was an elected at large, we would have had to run a similar at-large election, and so from that standpoint, it would have been even more difficult. So ultimately, council decided to do the right thing, focus on district elections next year, and we'll go through the process of interviews in January and then the final appointment in February. Next Wednesday, Governor Newsom was in, or let's see, on Wednesday of this week, Governor Newsom was in San Francisco, and he spoke about the rash of robberies over the weekend in Union Square and Walnut Creek, Hayward, San Jose. It's all over the Northern California, and in a similar sort of crime ring is happening in Southern California. Newsom said the state's going to be more aggressive and help support cities and the prosecution of criminals that have been doing these crimes. It's really difficult to see and hear about some of the stories of people that have been there when these crowds have rushed through. Newsom said that the New Year's budget will actually include substantial funding for cities to address that retail theft, but he didn't offer any real specifics, but I'm looking forward to see what he provides, as far as that's concerned. Yesterday was, of course, Thanksgiving. I hope everyone enjoyed the holiday, enjoyed a good meal with friends and family, and took a moment to give thanks. I want to say, for myself, I reflected on what I was grateful for, and it is having a brand new family to a certain degree. For those of you heard that story, but it's just being with family and giving thanks to what's been a very difficult year and a half, and making it through. So I know COVID has touched so many families in our community in a lot of different ways, whether it's health or death in the family, or just the difficulties of COVID and remote learning, remote work, or food. It hasn't been easy for people, but I give thanks for everything that I have, and happy that I'm your mayor and able to make a difference in our community. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly COVID numbers. COVID cases have stabilized a little bit. There's been surges in different parts of the U.S. From a national standpoint, we now are at 47.9 million cases. That's increased 600,000 in the last week. That's at least down from 700,000 the week before. We've had over 231 million vaccinated with at least one dose. Almost 82% of adults have at least one dose, and 71% of adults are fully vaccinated. We've distributed 37 million booster doses, so a lot of people are getting their booster. And as far as deaths, we're almost to 750,000 deaths, so 773,000 deaths. Another 9,000 in the last week, so definitely we'll surpass that 750,000 death toll sometime in the next week. From a California standpoint, we've had 4.7 million positive cases. We're now about 4,500 cases a day. That's down from 5,000 cases a day last week. So I think we're the best case rate in the nation as far as that's concerned. So that's positive. And we've had, another 500 deaths just in the last week, so we're now at 73,000 deaths. But we're vaccines continue to roll out within the state. We're at 57 million vaccines administered, and we're still at number 11 with 79%, 78% of those with at least one dose, and 14 number 14 with 63% of our residents that are fully vaccinated. So the county is doing a great job. From the cumulative COVID case count is now just past 150,000. And that's up about 1,000 just since the last week, but that's about the same as the week before. We've had another 10 people pass away because of COVID, so 1,897 deaths. But 95% of our residents 18 and over have at least one dose, and 90.4% of those 18 and over are fully vaccinated. So, it's really good from that standpoint. We've the county spent lots of money on COVID, and I was talking to county health earlier in the week, and we spent about $743 million on COVID-19 related activities at the county level. So they spent a lot, and that's staffing and overtime and doing the pop-up clinics, all that, just to make sure that people are vaccinated and people are healthy or tested. So happy that the county's doing its part, and I think that's really made a big difference as far as the health rates for everyone in our county, and our vaccination rates are fantastic. I continue to do a lot of advocating for our city, at the county level, and talking to our county supervisors. County testing for COVID is back in Sunnyvale. It's there on the first and third Thursday, so it will be at the Sunnyvale Community Center this Thursday, December 1st, and that'll be there from 9:30 to 4 p.m. And you just go to sccfreetest.org, and you can set up your appointment there. And those appointments are open today, open about 7 days before that. And then if you want to get vaccinated, if you want to get your flu shot, you can go to sccfreevax.org. And there's lots of drop-in locations around the county. I'm happy that they continue to do those and also adding the flu vaccine, making sure that the boosters are available. But the county process goes like clockwork, and in and out very quickly. So I'm very happy that they're able to do that. Let me go ahead and move to some upcoming events. So the annual downtown tree lighting will happen next Saturday, December 4th, from starting at 5 p.m. and that's on Murphy Avenue. There's a family photo booth that's being provided by City National Bank, one of our new banks. So happy that they're contributing to the community already. And then that same evening, the Caltrain holiday train will be in Sunnyvale at 7:30 p.m. So that same Saturday night on December 4th, and they provided that Caltrain holiday train for years now. It collects toys, and it just provides a little entertainment for everyone right there at the Caltrain station. The train is decorated with over 75,000 lights, and then they spend about 20 minutes at each station shop. So Friday and Saturday night they move down the peninsula. They'll be in Mountain View just before us, and then Santa Clara just after us at 8 p.m. So, but we're from 7:30 to 7:50, and then you can see singing, and there'll be music and carolers. The Salvation Army Christmas Brass Ensemble will be there. So there's lots of music, and Santa and Mrs. Claus and Frosty and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer will be there. So it's actually good for that standpoint to pose. There'll be some snow coming from the train. So yeah, it's a good event. It's a good family event, and it ties really well with our downtown tree lighting. So definitely a perfect evening as far as that's concerned. And then as far as upcoming council meetings, we'll meet this Tuesday, November 30th, last day of November, and we'll be looking at approving the 6.5 acre Redwood Park at the old AMD campus. So seeing that, I downloaded that design. We'll approve a Java Drive road diet in Moffett Park. So we'll be evaluating that. And then on Tuesday, December 7th, Council will look at passing a resolution to continue outdoor dining until September 30th, 2022. And so that basically extends outdoor dining in parking lots and on Murphy Avenue until the end of September. And then we'll also be looking at accepting LinkedIn's donation of bicycle and pedestrian improvements along Maud Avenue. And so they're looking at donating over $1 million in improvements as far as that's concerned. So happy that definitely that LinkedIn wants to give back as far as that's concerned. Let's go ahead and get to the weekly comments. If you have comments or questions, definitely put them into the chat. It looks like things are stable as far as it's concerned right now. Joanne asked, is the ice rink going to be bigger this year? No, I'm afraid it's the same size as it was in 2019, although it seems adequate for kids and parents, and just to get out on the ice and enjoy that. Or, I think that'll be open until January 2nd. So for those that want to, see a movie and go out on the ice, I think if there's lots of activities downtown. So I think, there'll be a lot of people enjoying that. Lynn asked, how long will the council appointees serve? And so when we finally appoint them, they'll be serving from whatever time in February we do that appointment through January of 2023. So about 11 months ultimately. And so, so that will be a relatively short, less than a year, definitely. And that was always a case when the last appointment happened, when Dean Chu was appointed when Otto Lee went off to Iraq when he was on council in 2005 or 6, something like that. And ultimately that was more than a year, and it ended up giving Councilmember Chu additional benefits. So there were definitely some issues on making sure that we're looking at. That'll be one of the things that we'll be thinking about, but it's less than a year, so that makes sure that they don't get additional benefits. So it's useful from that standpoint. Andrew asked, why don't you appoint Mason's opponent in the election, a longtime Sunnyvale resident who has a proven track record of working for Sunnyvale and its citizens? So anyone is allowed to apply. I'm sure each council member will have their own particular preference for what makes the best applicant, and we'll go through that interview process in January. So we'll see how many people actually apply. Definitely there's questions as far as how that selection process is, and making sure that it's completely transparent, as opposed to back in 2005 when it was kind of definitely the city council was a little admonished a bit because the process wasn't completely transparent. So happy that council is going through a much more open process this time. Laura asks, is there a quick update on the East Channel Trail project timeline? I know that the East Channel, I know the West Channel, we're waiting for permits from the Valley Water. So that is working going forward. The East Channel, we're starting discussions on design and looking at that. So that's kind of secondary. First is getting West Channel complete and the permits and moving forward, and that should be happening sometime in the next year. So looking at 2022, but trying to make sure that that those projects, utilizing those channels, making sure that they're better for flood protection, making sure that they're better for wildlife, but finally also making it so that they're pedestrian and bike friendly, I think are the best things. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. I just want to thank you for joining me again during this holiday week. I know, I'm always proud of our city, especially the last year and a half during COVID. I want to thank for our caring residents who really have looked out to help others in our community as much as possible. The future's still uncertain. New issues always come up, but your actions really do make a difference. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together, and we'll get through this together. Thanks for listening. Have a good weekend. Have a great Black Friday. Remember, shop local tomorrow. It's shop local Saturday. And take care. Until next week, have fun. Goodbye.